These are some of the most mysterious stones from prehistory. In the Yorkshire countryside upon Folkton Wold lies a cluster of 8 ancient barrows. In 1889, Canon William Greenwell came here and, for his time, cut carefully into the earth to see what stories the mound still held. 4,000 years earlier, a Neolithic community had shaped this landscape, raising earthen monuments as elaborate tombs, places of memory, status, and ancestral veneration. One barrow stood apart. Within it lay a child, roughly 5 years old. Gently lay on their right side, pointed to the north, with small hands positioned to cover their face. A shroud had once been wrapped around their shoulders, fastened with a bone pin. Behind the child's head, just touching it, was a chalk object. Near the hips lay 2 more, both larger, with the largest positioned furthest south. They were shaped like drums, but entirely solid, and carved with elaborate geometric designs and stylised human faces. These chalk drums are among the most enigmatic finds from prehistoric Britain. Buried some 5,000 years ago with a young child, they lay at the centre of one of the biggest mysteries of prehistoric Europe. To begin to unravel this mystery, first let's take a look at chalk itself. Bright white, soft, and readily available, chalk had a powerful significance in the Neolithic world. From the early Neolithic, chalk was used to fashion objects, but it was extensively embraced in the late Neolithic, particularly in grooved ware context, where it became a favoured medium for expression. Easily carved, smoothed, and reworked, it offered the convenience and versatility that harder stones could not. The Folkton drums may be the most famous and elaborate examples, but they're far from the only use of chalk. Across Neolithic Britain, chalk was transformed into bowls, axes, cups, discs, and even bowls. Well, a different kind. This selection was not merely practical, but deeply embodied in the symbolic and expressive lives of the people who shaped it. What truly binds the Folkton drums to the wider Neolithic world is not only the material, but the inscriptions carved into its surface. The trio works as a coherent set. They were placed incrementally in the grave and are very similar in shape and form. They also have remarkably striking similar decorative schemes. The particular motifs on their surface include concentric circles, lozenges, zigzags, chevrons, and parallel lines. These designs are not confined to these objects alone. The motifs also echo those found on Irish passage graves, rock art panels from North Yorkshire and Western Scotland. Striking parallels have also been noted with later material culture, including Wessex goldwork, cups, and collared urns, suggesting a longevity to this design tradition. However, a material culture that the drums and many other chalk objects make explicit visual links to is grooved ware pottery. The very term grooved ware recognises this defining feature. Geometric patterns cut into the clay. They would have been instantly recognisable to those who made and used them. These geometric designs may have functioned as a shared visual language, one understood across communities, a phenomenon never seen before in Britain during a time of profound social change. Grooved ware is frequently found in contexts associated with communal feasting, most famously at Durrington Walls, where it was used to cook and serve large quantities of meat. These gatherings likely played a crucial role in reinforcing social bonds and beliefs, drawing people together in a way never seen before through shared rituals and experiences. It's been suggested that grooved ware was a physical symbol of belonging, and to use it was to accept this newly emerging identity. The pottery originated in Orkney, and its rapid spread across Britain points to extensive trade networks. The Folkton drums fit comfortably within this world of shared symbols. However, there are some motifs that are intriguingly different. On 2 of the drums, a motif of eyes with eyebrows contrast from the geometric designs. This design has been seen on objects like the Knauth mace heads, but is rare and unusual. This marks a distinct difference from the abstract nature, and may be an attempt at representation referencing a person or spirit, potentially a daring effort to break tradition. The shared language isn't actually set in stone. More recent analysis has revealed unrecorded motifs on the Folkton drums, along with clear evidence for erasing and reworking. They were not decorated according to a single fixed scheme, but worked and reworked over time, accumulating patterns through successive acts of creation. Their meanings were not set in one singular moment of time, but shaped through use. They were active objects, likely in the minds of their makers and community. Objects were not static, but active participants in the world they belonged in. Such practices may have been widespread in Neolithic Britain, but what remains is just one part of this woven tapestry of a story. For over a century, the Folkton drums stood alone. Their singularity deepened their mystery. Objects without parallel, isolated in both form and meaning. That was until 1993. In a pit at Lavant in West Sussex, another chalk drum was discovered. Unlike the Folkton examples, this one was undecorated, but the fact of it existed was revolutionary. The Lavant drum was found alongside a pottery shard that identified as probable Mortlake ware rather than Grooved Ware, suggesting a Middle Neolithic date rather than this late Neolithic or early Bronze Age date. The Lavant drum's dimension sits between the smallest and middle of the Folkton examples. While it appears relatively unfinished, it may represent an earlier stage in development. Smoothing of the base and further working or decorating of the lid would have reduced its proportions slightly, bringing it even more in line with the Folkton examples. The Lavant drum does not diminish the mystery of the Folkton drums, instead it just widens up the conversation. Communities bound together by time, space, belief, and maybe even geometry. As identities and ideas spread, they eventually found their most enduring expression in the landscape, in earth and stone. Monument building, still a relatively new phenomenon, became a defining part of what we call the Neolithic package. Across Britain, communities began to reshape their landscape on an unprecedented scale, raising long barrows, causeway enclosures, circus monuments, timber circles, stone circles, and henges. These would have been massive undertakings, one that required careful planning, shared knowledge, and the coordination of large groups of people. The scale and regularity of these structures suggested they were built with intentional planning, careful surveying, and agreed principles. And it is in this context that the chalk drums take on a striking new significance, potentially unravelling their mystery. The Folkton drums appear to be made as a set, with carefully graduated sizes. When used as measuring devices, the circumferences correspond to fixed proportions of a standard length of approximately 3.22 metres. A chord of this length wraps exactly 10 times around the smallest drum, and 9, 8 or 7 times around the progressively larger examples. This is unlikely to be a coincidence, but deliberate design. Previous studies have shown that multiples of this same standard measure were used to set out the diameter of major circular monuments, including Stonehenge and Durrington Walls. This new evidence from Yorkshire and Sussex suggests that this standard of measurement was not local or isolated, but part of a widespread prehistoric standard across Britain, the implications of which are profound. Measuring cylinders that are portable, durable, and precise would have ensured consistency in the building of monuments to similar designs. Even though they were far apart, they could be to the same underlying plan. However, chalk is not an ideal material for everyday measuring tools. It's likely then that the drums we have are ceremonial or symbolic representations of cylinders that were likely wooden in day-to-day use. However, wood does not survive very well in the archaeological record, so these are sort of our standing examples. If this interpretation is correct, the drums point towards something remarkable: a shared system of measurement, an advanced understanding of geometry, and the complex mathematical properties of circles. These small chalk drums may lie at the foundation of Britain's greatest monuments. These objects were almost certainly prestigious, but the exact nature and degree of their social power remains uncertain. Their exceptional craftsmanship and rarity suggest that they're not everyday objects, but in this case particularly chosen as an inclusion in this particular burial. The particular placement in the grave reflects care and familiar relationships. If this was an adult's burial, we'd probably get swept up in narratives of a master builder or elite craftsman. However, their presence in the burial of a young child adds further mystery to the narrative. Considering the object's association with geometry, is the practice somehow intrinsically linked with children, growth, or life stages, or maybe to do with learning and the transmission of knowledge? Beyond this, the drums marked with that unique face motif may have functioned as guardians, spirits, or symbolic representations of ancestors or community members. Maybe acting as mediators in the world, themselves already embodying a bridge between art and science. In 2015, a routine excavation in Burton Agnes in East Yorkshire once again rewrote the story. Just 15 miles away from Folkton, buried together were 3 children, each of different ages placed in a poignant scene. The 2 youngest children lay touching or holding hands, while the eldest children was positioned embracing the youngest pair. Just above the head of the eldest child lay a chalk object, an elaborately decorated carved chalk drum. 3 carved holes had been added hastily, maybe corresponding to the presence of 3 children in the grave. This discovery takes us back to exactly where we started, the burial of a young child with a chalk drum. There was also a bone pin in this burial which resembles items placed in burials at Stonehenge during the same time period, about 3000 BC. However, a different object, a chalk ball, was found behind one of the child's heads. Chalk balls of this kind have been found at other sites, such as Bulford near Stonehenge, though their meaning remains unclear. They could have served as fertility symbols or maybe cherished toys. The Folkton drums were only ever roughly dated to between 2500 and 2000 BC, that is until now. Radiocarbon dating of one of the children's bones in the Burton Agnes burial dated it to between 3005 to 2890 BC. This provides the first reliable date for these elaborate drum objects, and places the Folkton examples 500 years earlier than previously thought. Remarkably, this places their creation at the same time as the very first phases of construction at Stonehenge. While the first blue stones were being transported from Wales to the Salisbury Plain, people across Britain were sharing art styles, likely beliefs, and perhaps even knowledge of geometry. This remarkable connectivity raises tantalising questions about the coming together of distant communities. Are there any other far-reaching links, such as maybe the possibility of the altar stone from Scotland travelling along the Yorkshire coast? But that's just the kind of narrative I find myself getting swept up in. From their discovery in 1889, the Folkton drums were obsessed over as 5,000-year-old enigmas. Over the next 136 years, they evolved in our understanding from the most mysterious objects in prehistory to multifunctional artefacts embodying art, belief, identity, and science, which I think in many ways makes them even more mysterious than before. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Louise, I'm an archaeologist, and I like to explore the deep past of Britain and beyond. So please subscribe for future content like this, and please like it and share your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.